Stitch Cutie, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and welcome to the video tutorial for making your little freebie that you get when you join the Ewe Troupe Block of the Month. So I'm going to, in this tutorial, show you how we make their little mini pillow slash pin cushion totally into hoop using your embroidery machine. And this is the tutorial for if you have those add-on embroidery files. So first, in your little freebie kit, you'll have your prefused laser cut applique pieces. I've gone on and peeled the backing off of the back, and they're ready to go. And then I have my background fabric, I have my left and right border, my top and bottom border, and then my two back pieces. And those are all included in your kit. I have an 8-inch hoop loaded with a medium tearaway stabilizer. And then my little setup in front of me, I have a rotary mat underneath, and underneath my Steady Betty, I have my rotary cutter, and then I have my favorite iron, which is my Steam Fast travel iron. And so what we're gonna do, oh, one more thing, I have my favorite tape, which is my 3M transport tape. So what you're gonna do is load the file for the back, or I'm sorry, for the first step of your bowl filler slash mini pillow slash pin cushion, and you're gonna load a white thread. Now I'm using a Sulky 40 weight rayon thread. This is from the Ewe Troupe thread kit that we have for machine embroidery. They're all 40 weight rayons. And then the other three colors we're going to use on this project are the green 1177. We're using the butterfly gold, which is 0567, and then of course black, which is 1005. So these are the four colors out of that kit that you'll use on this project. So we're gonna load that file, and we're gonna go on and prompt the machine for the first step with our white thread. So the first step that your machine stitches for you is a stitched square right in the center of your hoop. What you're gonna do is take your pink background fabric and you're gonna put it on there. Now we give you way more fabric than you need. It's cut way bigger than you need, but that's perfect because you won't be short. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of tape to hold it in place. We're gonna keep that white thread on still, and the machine is going to base this down, and then it's going to give us an outline for our first two applique pieces. Okay, so now this second step, you can see it's basted down. We have those two outlines. So we're going to take our two green pieces and we're going to iron them in place. Now it's really important on this step that you put them down in the right order because see, they overlap. So the first piece that you want to put down is piece number 1. And that's numbered in your placement guide with your little freebie that came in the mail. So we're gonna put that down, and then we'll put down piece number 2. There we go, and just make sure it's in place. You'll notice throughout this entire block of the month using your embroidery files, and any project you use with embroidery files with us, is that every single piece is an absolute perfect fit. So I'm also going to take my tape off in this step, just so I make sure I don't accidentally leave it on throughout the process or accidentally iron it. So again, I'm gonna leave that white thread on my machine, and the machine is now gonna do an outline of the flower, the little hand for this sheep, and then the outline of the body. Okay, so here's your next set of outlines. So what we're gonna do now is put our little flower in place. And if I can just get a hold of it from my little bowl. I like to keep all my pieces in a little bowl, because that way I don't have to worry about losing a piece, especially like this has one little button. And I want to make sure I don't lose that little button. All right, so you just put your flower right in place, zap it down. Now for the next two pieces, you want to put them in the right order. You want to put the hand down first because that goes underneath the body, because like the little body of the sheep is sticking out, right? Sheep are puffy. There we go. And then this fun piece of fabric. This is actually a fabric designed by Julie. Did you know that? For Henry Glass. Super cute. Perfect for a little sheepy, huh? All right, and you just put that right in place and iron your little guy down. Now, one little trick, if you ever get this down and you're like, oh, you know what? I need to move it a little. While it's still hot, you can very gently push and pull it a little to get it right up to the line. Pretty cool, huh? Nice. Okay, so now we're gonna put this back on, still with the white thread, and the machine is gonna give us an outline for the sheep's face. Okay, so it's time to iron on the last applique piece, which is our little sheep face. And when you have a piece like this that's got a lot of little things sticking out, I like to make sure I have it fully in place everywhere. And then I just start at one side and go to the other, right? So I'm gonna make sure I get both of his ears in place, and then his face just falls into place naturally. Now we're gonna leave the white thread on for one more step, and the machine is going to give us our little mouth, and then we'll be back to start putting on the sides. Okay, so our cute little mouth is stitched on. I just went on and did that because we have the white on, and it's just nice to go on and get that stitched and kind of see them start to come to life. So what we're gonna do now is assemble the borders, and then we're going to do all of the buttonhole stitching, and then we'll put the back on. So what you're gonna grab right now are your two shorter pieces for your sides. And yes, we told you to cut them way bigger than you need. It'll probably stick out of your hoop, no problem. And what you're gonna do, see where that stitched line is? We are gonna line up our piece right there. And yes, we have way more fabric than we need sticking out on either side of this square. That's just fine. What we're gonna do is just give it a little bit of tape on either end. And then we'll put this piece, again, face down, just line it right up, right here. And again, you're gonna have more fabric than you need sticking out on the top and bottom. And we are going to simply, just like this, tape it in place. And now the machine is going to do a 1/4 inch in on each side, and it's gonna give us that nice 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so now the machine has stitched our two seams right here. What we're gonna do is untape. We'll just remove that right here. And we're going to press this open. Now this is why I like to have a nice pressing surface, because you do a lot of, pressing and ironing throughout this process. So we're just gonna gently fold this over, and you just wanna make sure that your seam pretty much continues straight out, even where it's not stitched, because it's going to be part of the stitching in a minute. And look, oh my gosh, he's starting to come to life. So cute. Okay, so we're just gonna put a little bit of tape on these pieces, but we're also going to add our next borders, right? So let me just grab my tape, and it depends on what size hoop you have where your tape will go. Like for mine, it happens to be on the outside of the hoop where I'm taping. So just put that right in place. Now we're gonna take our two longer pieces, and we are gonna flip them right side down, and the same thing we did before, we're just gonna line it up and center it. You want to make sure that you're going pretty much equal distance on either side. Again, we tell you way more than you need, so don't be alarmed. And I'm going to put a little bit of tape there and here. And then that last piece that's like this, we'll put it, again, it's going to go just line up with that stitched square right here. There we go. And now I'm gonna put a little more tape. I'm gonna put a little bit of tape in the center just so my machine doesn't catch it. There we go. And right here. Perfect. So now we're gonna put this back on still with the white thread, and our machine is going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, and then we'll be back to flip that out. Okay, so now you have these two seams stitched. So what we're gonna do is remove all that tape, right? We put a lot of tape on, just because we want to make sure that our little project turns out perfect in the hoop. It's so cool that the whole thing is done in the hoop. I love it. It's so much fun. I have a feeling this is going to be a new habit where we piece together something in the hoop for our freebie, because it's so fun. I think, at least, I have so much fun with the machine embroidery, and I am so looking forward to stitching all year with you all with this little sheet block of the month, the Ewe Troupe. So just to remind you all, the Ewe Troupe is a collaboration with our friend Amy Brucken of Amy Brucken Designs, and she designs awesome cross stitch projects, and this originally was designed for cross stitch. So if you're a fan of cross stitch, you could do the applique and the cross stitch at the same time. We actually have a lot of people that have done that with the Boo Crew, which was a fun collaboration with Amy. It was based on her Halloween cross stitch, and that was of course the original design, and then we adapted it into the machine applique. Okay, so now everything is pressed nice and flat. I am gonna do just a smidge of tape right there and right here, just to hold that nice and solid down. So what's gonna happen now, we're gonna leave the white thread on for one last step, and the machine is gonna give us one big square, and that's so that we know that everything is done right. So if something's wrong, we can stop it before we do all the stitching. But if you've been using this tutorial and you've been using the files that are included, you shouldn't have any problem. Okay, so white thread, and the machine is gonna give us one big outer rectangle, or I'm sorry, square. Okay, so take a look. You have the white square stitched, and look, see what I was talking about, how we give you way more fabric than you need? You're gonna have a bunch of fabric all outside of that square. That's perfect. That means you did everything right. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take my hoop on and off the arm of my machine for the next few steps, just so you can see the color changes I'm talking about, but you won't need to take your hoop on and off until the very last step. So the first color that we're gonna change to is the green 1177, and the machine is gonna do the cutest little buttonhole stitch on the two pieces of green for her flower. Okay, so let's take a look at the first buttonhole stitching that's done for us. How perfect is that stitching? I love it. So now we're going to do another color change to the butterfly gold, which is 0567. Again, all these threads that I'm using are the Sulky 40 weight rayons, and they are in the Ewe Troupe 40 weight Sulky thread kit that we have for you, which has all 16 colors that you need. So when we put this on, the machine is going to do the sweetest little buttonhole stitch around our flower for us. Okay, so let's take a look now at that flower. So cute. So now all that's left for the buttonhole stitching would be black, which is 1005, and the machine is going to buttonhole the hand, the face, and the body of our sheep, and then we'll come back to talk about finishing it in the hoop totally. Okay, so now the top is totally done inside that square. It looks great. So we have a few little touches to do before we finish it in the hoop. Let's talk about that. If you'll notice, our little sheep needs some eyes. And so what we're gonna do is do 2 French knots for the eyes. So what I have is the Sulky 40 weight rayon thread, and I have it doubled in my needle, right? And I tied it in a knot at the end. You're gonna keep this in the hoop, and you're gonna be really careful not to distort the contents of your frame. And all you're gonna do is simply come up where you want his eyes, and you're just gonna come up once. And so I have the needle in my right hand, I have the threads in my left hand. What I'm gonna do is put my needle on top of my thread, and then I'm just gonna wrap 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go around 4, 5 times. So I want kind of a big French knot. Now, if you're using, let's say, a 12 weight thread, you wouldn't need to go around that many times. But the secret to a good French knot is to keep that tension all the way through. So you can see my left hand is holding that tension, and my right hand is pulling my thread through on the back. And look at that. We have a perfect French knot. So now we're just going to do the second little eye right beside it. So cute. And yes, I traveled underneath because it's not going to be visible, right? Because we're under 2 layers of fabric. Well, 3 layers of fabric, actually. So you're fine. So 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And again, the number of times you go around your needle is how big of a French knot you're going to get. And in this case, because I'm using a 40 weight thread, it's a little bit thinner, finer thread, right? I'm going to go around more because I want a bigger French knot. And then I just pull that through, and check it out. We have 2 cute little eyeballs. Adorable. You can kind of move them around with your finger to make them how you want. So we're just going to turn that over and tie it off. But we also have 1 button to put on. So you get an assorted color button in your little freebie kit. Let me just knot that twice. And we're going to sew that on for the center of our flower. There we go. So let me knot that off. There we go. And you can see how nice and tidy the back is. Looks good. So just to make your knot, and then we are going to put our button on. So very similar to how we do it. We are going to come up from the back where we want the flower center to be. And you take your 1 little button, and you're going to put it right on So cute. Now you can use matching thread with your button, or if you use a contrasting thread, it gives you a slightly different look. I'm going to use white. I think it'll look just fine. Give it a little contrast, and it saves time while I'm filming. So let me just come back up one more time through it. That's the hardest part with these little buttons, is aiming back through that hole. Doot, doot, doot. There we go, victory. And then we're just gonna go down one more time. You can go through another time if you want. I'm gonna be gentle with this little guy and probably use him more as a mini pillow so he won't get like wear and tear. So it's okay if I only go through a few times. Then we're just gonna knot off. And the needle that I'm using is a tulip needle. We carry these, they're awesome. And to be honest, I think I'm using a embroidery needle, but I just grabbed it from a pin cushion in the office, so I'm actually not sure. But any needle that's a sharp tip would be good. So it could be an applique sharp tip as well. Okay, so now that's what we have on the front. I mean, how cute is that? So now, how do we finish it off in the hoop? Well, we're gonna put the backing that makes the envelope back, and then the machine is gonna zigzag stitch for us, and we'll be able to turn it inside out after we trim it. So the first thing we need to do is prep our 2 back pieces. So I'm gonna move that out of the way, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. So you have your square, or I'm sorry, your rectangle, right? And we tell you to cut it larger than you need. But you're gonna take just about a 1/2 inch and another 1/2 inch. You're just gonna do 2 folds. And we're gonna take our iron and press that down real nice. So we have a nice finished edge right here. And if you want, you could run to your sewing machine and do 1/4 inch seam right here. I'm not going to because I wanna do it totally in the hoop. So let me show you, and I went on and did that already to my second piece, right? So this is what I have to work with. I have 2 pieces each with a double fold right here. So you'll have that same thing in front of you. So I'm gonna put my hoop down, I'm gonna take my fabric, and I am going to put it where it is right sides together, right? So I'm gonna be looking at the wrong side of this piece. And I'm gonna make sure that it just lines up with that 1/4 inch right there. And it's gonna go over a little bit on the edges, because again, we like to give you a little more than you need. So I'm gonna tape this into position nicely. There we go. Ooh, I got some fuzz. I don't wanna use that tape. Let me get another piece. Don't know where that fuzz came from. And I'm gonna make sure to do a nice piece of tape on my fold right here on the outer edge so that when my needle goes by, it doesn't accidentally unfold that. So just keep it nice and straight. There we go. And now our second piece, we're gonna do the same thing. We are gonna put it lining right up with this. And you can see we're gonna have a nice little envelope of where that is. And I ironed a little crooked right there, which is bugging me, but that's okay. And we're just going to put a piece of tape here. Whoop, it stuck to me, no. Tape does do that, doesn't it? So now we have a really nice envelope back. And I'm just taping it in place. So now what we're gonna do, you can leave that black thread on. It doesn't really matter what color you're gonna have on now, because the machine is going to do a nice zigzag, so that all we have to do is turn this inside out. And I am gonna put just a little bit of tape on this center to hold it nice and flat, because I know at the end the machine likes to come to the center. So just a few pieces. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna put this back on, and when we come back, we're gonna trim it and turn it right side out. Yay! Okay, voila, you're done. Okay, it doesn't look like much in the hoop, but I promise when we take this out, it's gonna be awesome. So what you're gonna do is take this out of the hoop, and the first thing we're gonna do is trim, and then we'll turn it right side out. So we're gonna take a ruler, and we are going to go just a 1/4 inch on the outside. And I'm actually, if you can see, I am lining my 1/4 inch seam up with right inside that zigzag stitch, just because I'm basically making a scant 1/4 inch. There we go. We'll move this out of the way. Now we're gonna turn it and do another trim. We're going to trim on all 4 sides. So awesome. And I will tell you, if you look at my center, you have a longer piece, so your envelope back really is going to overlap. I just grabbed pieces, and so they were not quite as long as I wanted them, but I double checked what's in your kits. It's way longer than what I used. Alrighty, and then we're gonna do one more turn. Then we're gonna remove all the tape. And then I like to eliminate a little bulk on my corners. So I'm just gonna very carefully trim on the corner. Don't cut your sewing because you wouldn't be happy. There we go. I'm gonna get that out of the way. Now just remove any tape that you have left. If I can get a hold of it. There we go. And I don't see any more tape on my project. So now it's time to turn this bad boy right side out. If you want to remove your stabilizer, you certainly can. Just gently take a pair of like tweezers and just kind of score it, making sure not to hurt your fabric. And your tearaway stabilizer will tear right out to eliminate that bulk. And you can also see right here, don't worry, that's everything's sewn. If you want to take all your stabilizer out and be a good quilter, you can take and trim. Remember, we had more than a 1/4 inch seam allowance when we were doing this pink piece, when it was putting all our borders together. So if you want to just very gently trim that, you certainly can. There's not really a need to, because this is just a cute little project. So now we're gonna turn it inside out. Just be real good with your corners. Doot. There we go. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see it. Are you excited too? This is just a fun little starter to get you excited before your first box comes for your first block. Okay, let's see it. Yay! Oh my goodness. I can't even. This is the cutest. Look at that happy little thing. So depending on what you stuff it with can be how you use it. So included in your pattern are instructions for making a pillow insert. So I'm gonna iron this real fast while we're talking. You can choose to fill it with like a wool roving. If you wanna use it more as a pin cushion, you can use, a lot of times what we do is just run to like Walmart or Target and buy a cheap pillow that's like $3 or $4 and use the stuffing from that to stuff. If you wanna make it like a pin cushion, you can use your favorite pin cushion filler. We actually like to use the crushed walnuts, which, fun fact, you can buy at the pet store because it's actually used as a lizard litter. I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Awesome, look at this absolutely perfect project. I couldn't be happier with this. Do be careful when you're ironing. Don't iron your button. You don't want to melt your button or discolor it. But this little guy is so cute. And I look forward to a fun year of stitching the Ewe Troupe every month with you. If you're not a member yet, it's never too late to join. So just jump over to stitchesoflovequilting.com, click on clubs, and you'll be able to join. I shouldn't say it's never too late to join. You could be watching this 10 years from now and it would be too late to join. But in the near future, it's not too late to join. So happy stitching, everyone, and I'll see you next month for the first block.